refuses to follow the script.
We have rules here, you know that. And if you don't follow the rules, then what are we?
One man stands tall in the face of adversity.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
A man who rises above the ashes of hot takes.
What do you care what they say?
Easy for you to say they all love you.
It's just noise, man. You're really good at it. You might be great.
That man is Nick Kostos. And this is You Better You Bet.
If loving sports is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Where narratives are challenged and the truth is spoken.
I told you what was going to happen last week. If you didn't listen, that's on you.
This isn't talk, it's perspective.
It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry, magnificent Sports Monday to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports, as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. And on this Monday morning, the world of sports is alive. And we are going to get to all the big stories, including why everybody that's talking about LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and the Los Angeles Lakers, Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics, Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs, hell, even Jalen Brunson and my streaking New York Knicks. Everybody that covers the NBA, that watches the NBA, that loves the NBA, everybody is missing the point and is missing the actual biggest story right now in the association. I'm going to tell you what it is and why it's the most important story next hour here on this Monday. Also, today is March 23rd, which means we are 1 month away, literally, from the 2026 NFL Draft. Round 1, Thursday, April 23rd in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we've still got some big-name free agents out there on the market. And I'm going to match right now. I'm going to match over the course of this show the big-name free agents to the teams that should sign them. And one of those free agents, Stephon Diggs. All the bets for tonight will close the show in the power hour, the final hour, and we will get the trivia question of the day as well. 310-840-4910 is the number, 310-840-4910. We are on YouTube, youtube.com/@thekostos. Shout out to everybody watching on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, @thekostos, THEKOSTOS. And we officially begin the magnificent Sports Monday edition of You Better You Bet with mixed emotions as sports fans. Now, some of us, and just as like in legalese where we define what us is, us means sports fans. Some of us this morning, and for the better part of the last 48 hours, some of us have been grieving, feeling like we, like you, have lost something that we truly, truly love. Others may be a little bit more ambivalent towards the situation at hand, what we are facing right now as sports fans. I know that some of you, because I have heard it from friends of mine, I have seen it on social media, I've seen it on Twitter, I've seen it on Instagram. Some of you feel like something that you love has been lost. And it's tough to grapple with, and all the emotions that come with a loss like this. What I am referring to is death. The death of Cinderella. And the incontrovertible truth, the inexorable truth, that the NCAA tournament the tournament that all of us love, has changed. There can be no questioning it. It is a fact. The NCAA tournament is not what it was even just a couple of years ago. When we went off the air on Friday, and I did the show on Saturday as well with Brad Evans, but on this show in the weekday slot, when You Better You Bet went off the air on Friday afternoon at noon Eastern ahead of the Kentucky-Santa Clara game, which was the first game on Friday, we had a couple upsets on Thursday to talk about, right? Most notably High Point beating Wisconsin 83-82. And we even turned VCU into a thing. Well, to be fair, VCU was a 2.5-point dog in that game on Thursday against North Carolina. Now, it's Carolina, and there was the huge blown lead by Carolina, which made it feel probably bigger than it was as far as being an upset goes. But those were still two pretty fun ones, right? High Point and VCU on Thursday. And I even said at the start of the show, perhaps, all the rumors and the reports of the demise of Cinderella, perhaps they've been exaggerated. And then Friday happened, where the favorites go 16-0 straight up. And now that we are through the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament, and we have the Sweet 16, here is where we stand right now in terms of seeds. In the East, the Duke region, 1v5 and 2v3. In the South, 9v4. Okay, 9 is, not a seed that we generally see, advance this far. 9v4, 3v2. In the West, 1v4, 11. Okay, we got an 11 seed, 11v2. And then in the Midwest, 1v4 and 2v6. Okay, 6. Not one of the top seeds that could have potentially made it there. Okay, now let's consider the three real outliers here in the Sweet 16. The 9 seed that made the Sweet 16 is not some curtain-jerking jabroni, mid-major school. And I mean that as no insult to the mid-majors. But the Iowa Hawkeyes with Ben McCollum and Bennett Sturts, are not a team that has come out of nowhere. This is not FAU getting to the Sweet 16. This is Iowa, a huge program and one of the best conferences in college basketball. Okay, so that's Iowa. How about the 11 seed? Oh, you see 11. Oh, man, this has got to be a school that no one's ever heard of. Who is this 11 seed? This under-the-radar Cinderella 11 seed? Oh, Texas. Coached by, Sean Miller, who's been in the NCAA tournament, it feels like, for as long as I've been alive. Huge program, obviously. The University of Texas. Wow, what a Cinderella the Texas Longhorns are. And the 6th seed is Tennessee with Rick Barnes, and this is their 4th straight trip to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. There's no Loyola Chicago. There's no St. Peter's. There's no LaSalle. There is no Cinderella. No Cinderella. NIL didn't just kill Cinderella. It blew up the pumpkin carriage that Cinderella rides in. It's over. And that doesn't mean that we won't have a High Point over Wisconsin. And to be fair to High Point pushed Arkansas to the brink on Saturday night. Darius Acuff takes over at the end of that game for the Razorbacks, and maybe we have a slightly different conversation, but High Point would have been the only one. VCU was never beating Illinois. It was never happening. Illinois won that game by over 20. So it's possible that High Point could have pushed to the Sweet 16. And look, I'm not saying that we'll never get a team like High Point advancing to the second weekend ever again. But what I am saying, and I don't even know what the argument is to the contrary, that I feel like it's going to be few and far between. And in your average run-of-the-mill NCAA tournament when we were growing up, hell, even 5-10 years ago, you would see this kind of thing way more often than we're going to see in the future moving forward. The NCAA tournament has changed. Period. There's no arguing that point. It's just how you feel about that change. Lots of people are upset. They want their old tournament back. They want the upsets. They want the Cinderellas. They want to see the big boys go down early. Change is difficult. It's a truth of life. You can dislike that truth. You can yell at a cloud, but you have to acknowledge change is difficult for everybody. You leave a job. You break up with your girlfriend or boyfriend. You move to a new city. Of course, all of these things are anxiety-inducing, assuming that you're not like a sociopath, right? You have no capacity to feel. Of course, these things will give you anxiety. Of course, these things will have you questioning whether what's going to be next can be better. Change is scary. Familiarity is comfortable. Sometimes that new job, make more money, enjoy your life more. Sometimes the next person you meet after a breakup, that person's the one. And sometimes that new city you move to, gonna make your life that much more enriched and that much better. I would argue, and I'm not going to say that everybody has to agree with me. This is very much a subjective thing, and if someone wants to feel differently, I disagree. But like that is your opinion as a sports fan. You have your right to that opinion just like I have the right to mine. The argument that I will make is that the NCAA tournament has changed, and it's changed for the better. Just look at these matchups coming up on Thursday and Friday in this next round, the round of 16 in the NCAA tournament. Like, we've got Duke and St. John's. Duke against Rick Pitino. How amazing that is. How excited everybody's going to be for this game. Like, would you rather have had TCU beat Duke on Saturday? Would you rather have TCU against St. John's? Would you have rather had Cal Baptist upset Kansas? Wow, how much fun is that? And then Cal Baptist, beat St. John's, and here's Duke and Cal Baptist, or TCU and Cal Baptist? Come on, be honest. What would you rather have? How about Michigan State and UConn in the East region? Izzo, Hurley, two blue blood programs. You know how great this is? Would you rather have North Dakota State and UCF? Be honest. That's just one region. Even like Iowa, Nebraska, which is probably the most wonky of all these matchups. Purdue, Texas, maybe, I guess also. These are Iowa, Nebraska's really fun. I mean, the total of the game's 133.5. I think to honor Big Ten football in Iowa and Nebraska, like we should make the total 33.5. But that's a really fun game. The Midwest rivalry. I love that. Illinois, Houston is as good as it gets. Arizona, Arkansas is as good as it gets. Like, would you rather see Arizona High Point instead of Arizona against John Calipari and Darius Acuff? Come on. Like, I get it. Like, I grew up loving this tournament just like all of you did. I've been watching it literally since I was 7 years old. Obsessively, just like you. And I have loved and been seduced by the upsets in the past. There's no question. And if NIL had never happened and things had remained the way they were, I wouldn't be complaining because I loved it. It's not that the tournament was bad the way it was before. It's just that I think it's a little better now. I think it's a little better. I am willing, me personally as a sports fan, I am willing to sacrifice the opening Thursday and Friday, and I understand this is controversial. I am willing to sacrifice the opening Thursday, Friday. I'm not saying I want all the games to suck or that every favorite has to win. Not saying that. But I will sacrifice some of the drama on Thursday and Friday in the opening rounds of the tournament to ensure that we get banger after banger after banger in the second weekend and beyond. I don't need to see the mid-majors at the end. I don't need to see that. You can disagree. That's your opinion. That's fine. I don't need to see it. I don't need it. Like the Final Four with you, I keep referencing this one because it sucked. And we all like conveniently forget how much it sucked. San Diego State, FAU, UConn, and Miami. That Final Four was not that long ago. It was terrible. And I host a national sports show. And that week leading up to the game, yes, we can talk about the bets, and yes, we can talk about the handicap, etc. What are we doing here? When that's what you wanted, that's what you want. That's what you want. Do you understand how amazing the quality of these games, how amazing this quality is about to be? How sick this is going to be. Like we could, like Duke, UConn, Duke, Michigan State, like either Illinois or Houston, either team, national championship caliber. You could get Arizona, Purdue. You could get Michigan, Iowa State. These are dream matchups this season in college basketball. And you'd rather have St. Louis? You'd rather have Utah State? Really? 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 This new NCAA tournament, it's like your diet. Is it fun to eat pizza and potato chips and cookies and fried chicken and all this unhealthy garbage and wash it down with some soda? Is it fun to do that? Oh, hell yeah, it is. I said to my wife this weekend, I meant it. Like, what a world it would be if you could eat chocolate chip pancakes for breakfast with a side of like country fried steak, which is why I used to order at IHOP in my fat days. Delicious breakfast. If you could eat that and it made you, it got you in better shape. What a world it would be. It's not the world we live in. Is it fun to eat like that? Oh yeah, it is. But you're going to pay the price down the road. You're going to be out of shape. You're not going to be as healthy. Fact. What if you eat your vegetables? Drink a ton of water. You go to the gym and work out. Is it fun to do that? No, it's not. And it's not like the worst thing in the world to do, but like, I go to the gym, people that go to the gym, would you rather go to the gym or like sit on your ass and play video games? I'd much rather sit on my ass and play video games. But you know what? You take your medicine early so that later on, you're in good shape and you're healthier. It's the NCAA tournament. Right now, in the NCAA tournament, you might have to eat your vegetables a little bit on Thursday, Friday. You might have to. That might be what this is. You want the 15 over the 2, and you want the mid-major advancing to the second weekend in dominant fashion? You want that? Guess what? You know what you're getting instead? Broccoli. You know what you're getting instead? Carrots. Cauliflower. And instead of that big beer, you're getting a glass of water. Okay. You might hate that. You might hate that in the moment. But I'll tell you what. The next week, when you've got matchups like mouth-watering matchups like these, and you look in the mirror, you look good. And you take stock of how you feel. And you feel good. I don't think you're going to regret it. We're in this new world now. And yeah, you can bitch and you can moan and you can whine and complain about Thursday and Friday, the opening Thursday and Friday. I think, even without a ton of upsets, the opening Thursday and Friday is still awesome. Like, that's the fun thing, right? Like, it's still really, there's still 16 games. It's still amazing. It's maybe lacking a little bit in the late drama and with the upsets. That's it. For me, as a sports fan, I'll take it. Because now we get this. And this is better than that. 310-840-4910, 310-840-4910, youtube.com/@thekostos. Do you agree with me? Is the NCAA tournament better now than it's been in the past? I think abso-frickin-lutely. On the other side, we will take stock of the 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament. And we will answer the question, which of these 1 seeds is not like the other? We're looking at you, Florida. That's coming up next here on this Monday. You better you bet. Westwood One Sports with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM.
Sturks, bounce pass to the corner. Bulgaris for three. Lee speeding toward the basket. Lee leaves it underneath. That's it! Iowa, for the first time since 1999, will head to the Sweet 16.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Oh, baby. How about it? Iowa knocking off Florida last night. Florida, the only one seed to not make it to the round of 16. Which of these one seeds is not like the other? The answer, the Florida Gators. TBS on the credit of the call. I got to tell you, what a weekend in the NCAA tournament. I loved Saturday, absolutely loved Sunday, and as I told you in the opening, it's going to set up an absolutely killer Thursday, Friday this week, and Saturday, Sunday this week. And I think a great Final Four Saturday, and hopefully an amazing national championship game. So with Florida getting bounced, 3 1 seeds make it, the other 3 make it. We will not have a repeat of 2025, a.k.a. last year, when all 4 1 seeds made it to the NCAA tournament, or a repeat of 2008, when we saw the same thing. We will break down all the 1 seeds and how they performed in this segment, which is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Save on commercial auto insurance from Progressive. Get a fast quote at progressivecommercial.com. So we told you this last week here on the show, that we felt, and we don't, I need to say this, because this is going to be like a little bit of victory lapping here. Don't even come close to getting everything right. Not even close. Like, see Gonzaga losing to Texas. I was convinced Gonzaga was going to give Arizona a game in the Elite Eight. As it turned out, couldn't beat the 11 seed, the Texas Longhorns. So we don't even come close to getting everything right. But one thing that we did get right was the analysis of the 4-1 seeds last week on the show prior to the start of the NCAA tournament, where the betting market at BetMGM over the course of last week leading up to, to Thursday with the first round starting, had it kind of set that it was the top 3, Duke, Arizona, Michigan, in whatever order you wanted to put them, then draw a line, then the 4th 1 seed, the Florida Gators. And that I felt like that was correct, given Florida's holes on defense, given their issues in the backcourt, and especially the way Vanderbilt exposed them big time in the semifinals of the SEC tournament. We said on the show, Florida was definitely the most likely 1 seed to get bounced early, and it indeed happened last night against Iowa. We will get to the Florida Gators in full in just a few moments, but first, some thoughts on the 3-1 seeds that advanced. We'll begin with the Michigan Wolverines. And this was the first game of the weekend. We were still on the air, myself and Brad Evans, on Countdown to Tip-Off when this game started. And, we were on about until the end of the first half, or towards the end of the first half of the game. And Michigan-St. Louis, if you remember, a really, really, back and forth, up and down first half, tons of scoring. And it looked like the Billikens were going to be able to, at least, if they weren't going to win the game, that St. Louis at least was going to be able to maybe hang in the game. It did seem that way, right, for a lot of the first half. And then Michigan just put the foot down on the pedal and hit the afterburners and absolutely left a good St. Louis team. And for me, this is less of an anti-St. Louis thing and more of a way pro-Michigan thing. Where Landeborg is terrific in the game. Mara is terrific in the game. And Michigan just leaves St. Louis in the dust. I don't know how you watch that and aren't uber impressed with the University of Michigan. So Michigan goes, right? And it's not a great end to the season for the Wolverines. And it's not the worst end of the season, right? The one-loss record is still exceptionally gaudy for Michigan. And I love that Michigan is already tied for the most wins in a season in school history with the 2008 team that went to the national championship and got blown out by Villanova. Obviously, an amazing season for the Michigan Wolverines. But the end of the season was not what you want it to be, right, for one of the championship favorites. You don't want to almost lose to Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament and need a Landeborg basically buzzer beater to avoid overtime in that game against Wisconsin. You don't want to get run off the floor by Purdue, a team that you handled at Mackey in the regular season in the Big Ten championship game. That's not what you want. It looks, though, like Dusty May and Michigan have left that squarely in the rearview mirror. With a dominant first-round performance against Howard, where they blew Howard out in the second half, and then really, like we're just in. I mean, it looked like college playing high schoolers, and St. Louis is good. Like, I don't mean that as an insult to St. Louis, but that's how good the Michigan Wolverines were. So that's quality stuff from Dusty May, quality stuff from the players. Michigan, now at BetMGM, your favorite to win the national championship at plus 300. We can go to the West region, the 1 seed, the Arizona Wildcats. And I want everybody, and this is not to say that like Utah State and Iowa are exactly the same, right? I think like if Iowa played Utah State on a neutral, I think people would like Iowa in the game, right? I don't think that's a crazy comment to make. So this is not to say that like the level of competition is necessarily the same. But compare and contrast, right? Arizona, Utah State with Florida, Iowa. Every single time, Utah State would make this game interesting. And like to be fair to Utah State did make the game interesting at points, right? After beating Villanova in the opening round, you had the great Kevin. I want to make sure that we talk about Kevin Willard for a few minutes later in the show, because I think I have a pretty interesting thought on like the psyche of Kevin Willard. And I mean that sincerely. Utah State made this game interesting. Utah State hits a 3-pointer to cut Arizona's lead with like 4 minutes to play to 63-59. It's like, whoa! Like this is a close, it's a 4-point game with a couple of minutes to go. And every single time, Utah State would draw close, would draw blood from the Arizona Wildcats. Every single time, Arizona answered. So from 63-59, Arizona closes on a 15-7 run. Jaden Bradley's awesome as per usual. Arizona's awesome as per usual. And Arizona advances to the Sweet 16. That doesn't... We've seen champions win when like they really, really struggle and have to pull it out of their derrieres at the end. There's no question. But I'll tell you what. Is it not the mark of a champion to do what Arizona... Doesn't mean they're going to win. But is that not the mark of a champion to do what Arizona did? Jaden Bradley is emerging. And I only say emerging because I want to be fair to the national audience, right? Because if you were really in the weeds on college basketball all season, which is okay if you're not, there's a ton, it's during football season, right? If you're in the weeds on college basketball and you're watching it all, if you listen to this show, we talk about it all season. Make sure we talk about the top teams. Jaden Bradley, one of the best closers in the country. He's been that all season long. Big 12 player of the year. Think about Darren Peterson's in the Big 12, AJ DeBonce's in the Big 12, Jaden Bradley, Big 12 player of the year. Like you might as well cue up the Mariano for him. Exit, light, enter, night. Take my hand. We're off to Never Never Land. Arizona closes it out. On to the Sweet 16. 8.5-point favorites against John Calipari, Darius Acuff, and Arkansas. We'll talk about that game coming up in a little bit. We'll get to every game in the Sweet 16 as we move along. Arizona, your second choice to win the national championship at plus 325. You bet on this Monday. Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos here with you, breaking down the weekend that was in the NCAA tournament. The third 1 seed to advance to the Sweet 16, the Duke Blue Devils. And I posted a video on my Instagram, at the Kostos, TheKostos. And in this video, the point that I made, and some people really loved it, and some people got really angry, which to me is the sign of that's pretty good content, right? I think what Duke was able to do in the first 2 rounds of the tournament is a nightmare scenario for the rest of the field. So Duke has now played 4 halves of basketball, right? In its 2 wins, beating Siena and then beating TCU. How many of the 4 halves would you say Duke played well in? 1? That's it, right? They came out and they destroyed TCU in the second half of the second round. They led by 4 at halftime. TCU was very much in the game. And you know what we said on the show on Friday. I felt Duke was lucky to survive Siena. And congratulations to Jerry McNamara, who's going to take the Syracuse job. Like that's a match made in heaven. So Jerry McNamara and Siena keep it close against Duke. Now he takes the job at Syracuse. God bless him. Great job by Jerry McNamara and Siena. Probably should have beaten Duke in that 116 matchup. But Duke survives. And then Duke survives against TCU, and not just survives, but thrives in that second half. Where Cam Boozer, 17 points in the second half. And Patrick Gunba's back for Duke now. So Duke is now in the Sweet 16. And you can make a strong argument, right? And Florida's out. So we don't have to talk about Florida. But out of the 3 remaining 1 seeds, which of the 3 has been the least impressive? It is clearly and obviously Duke. They're still standing. And now they're healthier. And now Gungba's going to get a number of days off before he gets a meeting with Zuby Ejiofor and St. John's in the next round. I think this is bad news for St. John's. It's bad news for UConn. It's bad news for Michigan State. It's bad news for Iowa and Nebraska and Illinois and Houston and every team on the left side of the bracket. That Duke is still alive despite playing poorly for the vast majority of the first 2 games of the NCAA tournament. Duke plus 425 at BetMGM to win the title. In my estimation, the best value bet on the board of the big teams right now is the Duke Blue Devils. And that takes us now to the Florida Gators. So it's tough to say this, I need to preface what I'm about to say by saying this. Florida just won the national championship less than 365 days ago. And if you're a Florida Gators fan, if you're a sports fan, right? When the Giants won the Super Bowl 42 against the Patriots, right? And then in 2008, the next year, Plaxico shoots himself in the leg, and the Giants lose to the Eagles in the divisional round game when they're the 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. That is a loss normally that would devastate me as a Giants fan. But we had just won the Super Bowl the year before. I'm still riding high off of that. You sign up for that, for 2008 losing to the Eagles in the divisional round because you won in 2007, it's not even close. Just like in the same way, if you're a Florida Gators fan, you sign up for losing to Iowa in mind-numbing fashion because you won the title last year. So this doesn't mean Todd Golden sucks or that Florida's a terrible program now. They just won the title. You can never take down the banner. They won. That needs to be said. Next sentence. This is an embarrassing loss for Florida. I don't think people are shocked that Iowa was in this game. A lot of people really respect Iowa. Bennett Sturts is awesome. Florida has issues in the backcourt. I don't think people are really surprised that the game is close. I think people are surprised that Florida lost. Ben McCollum, Iowa's coach, we'll talk more about him next segment, basically shoved Todd Golden in a locker in a couple different ways. Calling Todd Golden sensitive to A.J. Ross on the sideline or whatever, the touchline of CBS. Todd Golden bitching and moaning and losing his mind to the officials. Hey, Todd, how about this? Instead of losing your bleep at the officials, maybe don't full court press Iowa at the end of the game when you have way better athletes than they do. And all Bennett Sturts has to do is do a little move around flange and get the ball, and then you have a wide open 3-pointer. And then with 5 seconds left, you know what would be good? If you got a shot off to win the game. Can you get a shot off? No, is the answer to that question. Florida doesn't even get a shot off to end the game. Not even a shot. How about that? It goes noted, right, that Florida won the title last year because Houston didn't get a shot off at the end of the game. Florida couldn't get a shot off against Iowa. Again, you sign up for that in 1 second if you're Florida. In 1 second because you won the championship. But that is a brutal, brutal way to go out. It should not have happened. And Florida has no one to blame but themselves for losing this game yesterday to Iowa. 310-840-4910. 310-840-4910. Coming up next, we'll get into some blue blood programs that have some coaching issues right now in college basketball. And we have breaking news in the National Football League as it regards one of the league's best players. That and more still to come. You better you bet. Westwood One Sports with Nick Kostos.
gun, gets the snap, four-man rush, moves up, backpedals, throws end zone, caught, touchdown. Far side, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. And Seattle has grabbed the lead.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
BetMGM players will receive an Any Sport Parlay Boost token to get sports betting right. To use the Parlay Boost token, add a parlay wager made up of any sports wagers to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win your wager that was made with the token, you will receive extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today. The highlight coming back from break courtesy of our pal Kevin Harlan on Westwood One, along with Kurt Warner in the NFC Championship game. I told you going to break that we had breaking news around one of the best players in the National Football League. That player, Seattle Seahawks wide receiver, the reigning offensive player of the year, Jackson Smith and Jigba. He is now, JSM, the highest paid receiver in the NFL, signing a 4-year, $168 million contract extension, $120 million guaranteed. So JSN signing a new long-term contract to stay in Seattle for the foreseeable future. The Seahawks had just picked up his 5th-year option and also the 5th-year option of cornerback Devin Witherspoon, who you would imagine Seattle is also going to try to sign to a long-term deal this offseason. But JSN, the deal is done. He was never going to leave Seattle. Good job by John Schneider and the Seahawks making this move. And I think, and I said this to start the show, right? We are today 1 month away. Today is March 23rd. April 23rd is round 1 of the 2026 NFL draft. So we're 1 month away from like the next big thing on the NFL calendar. I think the Seattle Seahawks are a fascinating team over the course of the next month and obviously into the draft and even coming out of the draft. Obviously, just won the Super Bowl championship. But I think there's no question, none. The Seahawks are not as good today as they were 3 weeks ago. They're not. And like this happens with Super Bowl teams. I don't even mean that as an insult. Super Bowl teams usually get raided and lose players on their roster. The Seahawks not immune to that. The Seahawks, I believe, are worse. Also lost Clint Kubiak, right? The Seahawks are worse today than they were 3 weeks ago. And then you look at the two primary challengers, not just in the conference, in their division. Are the Los Angeles Rams a better football team now than they were 3 weeks ago? What's the argument against it? Here's Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson playing corner. Like that was the weak spot on the roster. They have addressed it. And oh, by the way, have the 13th overall pick in the draft courtesy of the Atlanta Falcons. The Rams have absolutely gotten better. How about the San Francisco 49ers in their own division? Here's Mike Evans. Like, you don't think that's a big deal for San Francisco? And also, like, the Niners will be getting back this year, like, 2 future first ballot Hall of Fame defensive players that barely played last year in Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. You don't think the Niners are better? The Niners are absolutely better now than they were 3 weeks ago. Not even close. And the Seahawks are a little worse. Now, bringing JSN back obviously is something that not that he was ever going to play elsewhere, but this is a deal Seattle had to make. And they signed Rashid Shaheed to a huge deal, despite the fact that Shaheed didn't really contribute like a ton on offense. Obviously had a few signature plays on special teams. The punt return against the Rams in that Thursday night home game towards the end of the year like tilted that game, and it might have ultimately won Seattle the Super Bowl. Had the opening kickoff return in the divisional round against San Francisco. So look, Shaheed had really good plays, but I don't think it's unfair to say that Shaheed underwhelmed on offense. And the Seahawks are going to be banking on way more from Rashid Shaheed this year on offense in the passing game for Sam Darnold. Cooper Kupp getting a little long in the tooth. And then there's the run game for the Seattle Seahawks. Because because I know there's a ton going on in sports. This is why I'm here, right? And I don't say that in a braggadocious way. It's my job, right? Oh, I also love it. But I am in the weeds on everything, so you don't have to be. I get into arguments with my wife because I'm so obsessed with sports. So you don't have to get into fights with your significant other. I do it for you. You bet on this Monday, Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos here with you. So you know that Kenneth Walker signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. because you're an educated sports fan. You like this show. You listen. We talked about it a lot. So Ken Walker's gone, Super Bowl MVP. Now left in Seattle at running back because remember, Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL in January. Like, he didn't tear his ACL in October. He tore his ACL in January. Like, likely to not be ready early in the season for Seattle running the football. The Seahawks running backs right now, if the season were to start to end, to be clear, it doesn't. But, like, if they don't add anyone, this is going to be what they're rolling out there in week 1. George Halani, Ariel's brother, and Emmanuel Wilson, the former Green Bay Packer. That's what they've got right now. And the Seahawks, by virtue of a number of trades they made, don't have a lot of picks in this year's. They have 4 picks in this year's NFL draft. And there's not going to be a running back worth taking in the first round, obviously. Jeremiah Love is going to go in the top 10. They're not going to get Love, and you're not taking another running back early. I think it's interesting to think about right now, with all the respect in the world to Mike McDonald and Sam Darnold. Are the Seahawks the 3rd best team in their own division right now? Is that a hot take? The Rams have clearly gotten better. The Niners have clearly gotten better. Who's running the ball for Seattle? Is that a hot take? Would it really be that surprising? Seriously. You might, he's just saying this for clicks. Is it that crazy to think that in this division, it's not like Seattle's in the NFC South and I'm making the case for Atlanta or Carolina or Tampa. That's not what this is. That division has 3 juggernauts in it. One has gotten worse. The other 2 have gotten better. Just something to think about. Congratulations to Jackson Smith and Jigba. Deserves every bit of that extension. Maybe, with apologies to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba, the best receiver in the NFL. And to give you one more NFL take this hour, and then we'll do more college basketball to start next hour. 1 month away from the NFL draft, and I was thinking last night, always want to make sure we get some NFL into the show. There are right now, and I'll do more on this later in the show, assuming that there's time. We'll see. And if not, I'll do it on Wednesday. Off tomorrow because I'm going to do Saturday's show. There are still a bunch of big-name free agents on the board. I'm going to talk about one right now to end the hour. Deebo Samuel, the former Niner last year with the Commanders, is out there on the market. And as I'm thinking about the team that I think should sign Deebo Samuel, I will admit that it's kind of lazy what I'm about to say. I will admit that. But I also think it's right. Why in the world would the San Francisco 49ers not bring him back? Deebo, Mike Evans, Ricky Pearsall, you get George Kittle back. Oh, yeah. I think the Niners, that's a bit of business, and the Niners, I think, will fix the Trent Williams situation. They'll get that worked out. I think San Francisco should bring back Deebo Samuel. Hour 1 done, hour 2 for you coming up on the other side. Seth Greenberg will join us next hour, ESPN college basketball analyst. We look forward to that. We will start previewing the games on Thursday and Friday in the Sweet 16, and we'll talk about some blue blood programs with coaching issues like Kentucky and Kansas here on a Monday.
biggest names in the business are on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening as you do every day to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Brought to you by BetMGM.
The magnificent Sports Monday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our crew, and you here on Westwood One Sports. Love the first hour of the show. We ended the first hour talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba, better known to you and yours as JSN, his massive 4-year contract extension with the Seattle Seahawks that makes him the highest paid receiver in football. I see the average annual value on my TV screen right now. $42.2 million for JSN. Jamar Chase next with $40.3. JSN, the reigning offensive player of the year, helped the Seahawks win the Super Bowl championship. I think he is obviously worth it. So good stuff there by the Seahawks to make it happen with JSN. We talked about the 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament over the weekend, and Florida, an embarrassing flame out for the Gators. Not embarrassing for the game to be close against Iowa. Embarrassing for Florida to lose like it did in the fashion that it did at the end of the game to Ben Sturts, and the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I told you to start the show why I like the NCAA tournament more now with less upsets early, because it means we get the big boys at the end. This weekend was going to be basketball nirvana. Thursday, Friday, into Saturday and Sunday. I really think that this is going to be a legendary 4 days of the NCAA tournament. And that is made possible by the fact that we don't have jabroni programs. Jabroni schools that are fun the opening weekend, not as much fun as the tournament moves along. You can call me an elitist. I am willing to wear the scarlet letter E. Proudly, I will wear it. I like the tournament better with the big boys at the end and the elite programs at the end than with your FAUs and San Diego States and Loyolas and LaSalle's and VCU back in the day with Shaka Smart in 2011. Great. Okay, fine. You know what? I'm good. I like this way, way more. Seth Greenberg from ESPN is going to join us in about 20 minutes. We very much look forward to that. And we will preview a little later in the show a bunch of the really, really fun games Thursday and Friday in the NCAA tournament. Need to talk about some blue blood programs here coming off the weekend. And Kentucky is the first one that has to be mentioned. Kentucky, thought to be the best team that money could buy. $22 million spent on this Kentucky roster to go out, not with a bang, but with one of the great whimpers of all time, getting annihilated by Iowa State. And Iowa State didn't even have its second leading scorer, Joshua Jefferson. Once Iowa State went pedal to the metal, Kentucky could absolutely not keep up. Final score, Cyclones 82, Kentucky 63. And we think back to Friday, right? We go off the air at noon Eastern on Friday, and all of us bet Kentucky. Me, Tyler, and Kenny all had Kentucky. I had Kentucky in the Sweet 16. That didn't go so well. But look, like we've got Kentucky surviving against Santa Clara. Oweh with the great shot to send the game to overtime, and then Kentucky winning and covering in overtime. And because they win, you almost forget that they could have easily lost to Santa Clara. Easily. $22 million spent on the roster for 22 wins this season. Not good enough. Not good enough at all. Now, I'm going to keep it real with everybody, right? I'm from New York City. New York is a pro sports town, right? And I love college sports, and you know that, listening and watching to the show for whatever the amount of time you've been with us, right? I love college sports. But I'm not like from the South. I'm not from the Midwest to really be like ingrained in college sports the way that some people are, right? Where college sports is a religion, college basketball, college football. So I say this as a New Yorker. I know enough to know, even if I'm not ensconced in this world, right? Could there be a hotter seat in sports than Mark Pope's at Kentucky? Unless like a coach is about to get fired like right now, could there be a hotter seat than Mark Pope's with how this has gone for the Wildcats? It's one thing to lose when you're paying players under the table and like no one knows how much you're paying for the roster. Not that that was ever happening. It's another thing entirely to lose in the second round in blowout fashion at Kentucky when everyone knows you spent $22 million on the roster. Terrible job. Terrible job by Kentucky. What's happening at Kansas and their coaching situation is a little different. So Kansas loses to St. John's in pretty, and Kenny, let me know. I would love to play the highlight here, the St. John's highlight. Kenny, just grab that and let me know when you have it. Kansas has a great second half comeback against St. John's. And then Dylan Darling with the buzzer beater to win the game. St. John's wins 67-65. And Kenny, if we have that highlight, let's play it here. St. John's beating Kansas at the buzzer yesterday.
This is going to be Darling. He's got to go.
Darling puts it up. St. John's is going to the Sweet 16.
Kevin Harlan with the call. A lot of Kevin Harlan on the show today for his various employers with the call yesterday on CBS. So it is a heart-wrenching loss for the Kansas Jayhawks, and you could see it emblazoned, written all over Bill Self's face when the game ends. And Rick Pitino kind of does. I call it the Jay Wright. And what's funny is, I don't know if people have been watching, like, the multi-view. So, like, there are times, and I know a lot of people have the multi-TV setups. There are times, like, when I go home after the show, and I have to be in the room with my daughter, right, while I'm watching my daughter. And there's one TV in the room, where she generally is, right? So it's only one game that you can watch. Oh, no. There's a multi-view now that basically everybody offers, like my cable provider offers, right? So I have the 4 screens up. And I guess that, like, I think it's Turner has been running this documentary all weekend called 4.7 Seconds. Maybe people have seen it or saw parts of it. And it's about the end of the Villanova, North Carolina national championship game when Chris Jenkins makes the buzzer beater to win the title for Villanova. And Jay Wright famously, when Jenkins makes the shot, shows no emotion, stone face, goes to shake Roy Williams' hand. And it's one of these like legendary badass moments in sports. Rick Pitino did that yesterday after St. John's won. No emotion, go shake hands. It was pretty cool from the great Rick Pitino. And Bill Self just crushed this roster with Darren Peterson falling just short of making it to the Sweet 16, where it would have been Kansas Duke, which would have been awesome as well. And some of you morons want Cal Baptist. Give me a break. And Bill Self had this to say post-game about his future at Kansas.
Well, I haven't really gone through much on the court. You know, I've gone through some stuff off the court. So I'll get back and get with family and visit and see what's going on. I love what I do. I need to be able to do it where I'm feeling good and healthy to do it, fairly well. So I'll get back home and it'll all be discussed.
Kind of sounds like Bill Self might be leaning towards walking away. And yeah, like it's a difficult season this year at Kansas with all the Darren Peterson drama. The upside, the ceiling of the team being like undeniably like to win a title. But ultimately the inconsistency ends up costing Kansas, ends up costing Bill Self. So Bill Self is based in his going to be 64 soon. He's 63 years old. And I'm just on the subject of mortality and aging. Nick Kostos, I try to be very self-aware. What I'm about to say is a 0.1 on the 1 to 10 scale as far as health is concerned. And I know that. I feel pretty lucky am pretty blessed to have been mostly throughout my life in pretty good health. And that can change later today. Who the hell? No one knows what's around the corner in life. So I have blood work done recently. Like my A1C is a little high, and like I eat pretty well, and like no one's really that concerned. But like, maybe I need to cut a little bit of sugar out of my diet. And what the doctor said to me was, "Hey, like you're in your 40s now. I turned 43 in a couple months. Like this kind of stuff happens now." And it kind of forced me. And again, 0.1 on the 1 to 10 scale. I know that. I'm not trying to make it like people older than me, same age as me, younger than me, have it way worse. The point that I'm making is that, like, I'm in my early 40s, and I'm just like, clock's ticking. There's no question about it. And you know that if this is what the human condition, you try not to think about things like this, right? But when you're younger, you get away with stuff that you can't get away with when you're older, right? So Bill Self is 20 years older than me. He's had a bunch of pretty serious health issues. Has had to step away a couple times, heart issues, plus the stress of the job. Like when your goal is to be great, the toll that takes on you mentally. I have no idea if Bill Self is coming back or not. No idea. If he's going to walk away, if he's going to return, he could coach 5 more seasons, he could never coach another game. All of it's on the table. I wouldn't be surprised if he walked away at all, given his comments. Health comes first. And he's got nothing to prove. Legendary career. Since he left Illinois to become the head coach at Kansas when Roy Williams went to North Carolina. 2 national championships in Lawrence. Obviously, 2008, beating John Calipari in Memphis. And then the win against North Carolina 4 years ago in the national championship game in that second half comeback. Since then, not even a berth in the Sweet 16 for Kansas. If I had to guess, and I'm not in his head and I can be wrong, Bill Self's probably like, man, I don't need this. I'm a Hall of Famer. I won a couple titles. I'm rich as you know what. My health isn't great. Why do I want to keep doing this? And I think there's a real chance that Kansas is going to have a new coach next season. If that happens, that is something that sends like shockwaves through the sport of college basketball. Last school to discuss here, while we're on the subject of blue blood programs and tenuous coaching situations. So North Carolina obviously blows it on Thursday night against VCU. And everyone's pissed, including me. And no one knows what's going to happen with Hubert Davis. Is he going to keep his job? It feels like this is, and I would, I'll ask you the question, and I'll lay out for a couple seconds, and you can answer it, right? We had reports this weekend that Carolina, the AD, and Hubert Davis are having discussions about what the future is going to be. For me, this feels like 50-50 at best that Hubert Davis is back. What would you say it is? I would say it's 50-50. So we could be entering it off. I don't think Kentucky's going to move on from Mark Pope after 2 years. I think Pope gets at least one more year, or at least gets to start the year. But we could be entering this college basketball season coming up with Kansas and North Carolina both needing new coaches. The name that I will bring up for these jobs, well, one of them would be Ben McCollum, the Iowa coach, right? Who's in the Sweet 16 this year, has already bested Fran McCaffrey in all the years that Fran spent at Iowa. Just beat Florida. He's obviously an awesome coach. Like, out-coached Todd Golden, who won the national championship last year. Like, Ben McCollum's on the fast track to do tremendous things. So maybe he's a one and done. Maybe he's not. I don't know. The name that I'll bring up. Can Billy Donovan really be that happy right now as the head coach of the Chicago Bulls? The Bulls are 28-42 on the fast track to nowhere with a clueless general manager, and the only way they're going to be relevant is if they luck into some lottery fortune and end up with like Peterson or DeBonsa. What's the path forward for the Bulls? Why does Billy Donovan want to keep doing this? Like, is the money good? Yes. Are there reports that he has that he's starting to consolidate power and he basically can like run an NBA team in one of the great cities in America? Sure. I get it. Also, they stink. Why keep doing this? Why? And look, maybe he's got a good answer. I'm not him. Billy Donovan won back-to-back national championships at Florida. It's been a while since that. 20 years, like since the first one, right? In 06. If you're North Carolina and you move on, how is the first call not to Billy Donovan? And I know Brad Stevens' name gets mentioned. Brad Stevens is like the general manager of the Celtics. Like, Brad Stevens is going to end up winning multiple titles as the GM of the Celtics. I don't know if it makes sense for Brad Stevens to go back. Like, what would you rather be? The GM of the Celtics or the coach of the Bulls? Which job is better and more desirable? Come on. Come on. Stop it. First call should be to Billy Donovan. If North Carolina's serious about winning, you have to move on from Hubert Davis. And I'm a Knicks fan telling you that, and I loved watching Hubert Davis in the 90s for my favorite team. I think enough is enough. As the late, great Owen Hart once said, enough is enough. And it's time for a change. Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina. 3 legendary programs to watch entering their off seasons in the world of college basketball. We still have some NBA to discuss here on the show. I'm very much looking forward to that. The story that everyone is looking past right now in the association, because we're all so wrapped up in Luka Doncic and Victor Wembanyama that everybody is missing the forest through that big-ass Luka Doncic tree right in front of them. We'll still get to that. We have to get to some NFL free agents still out there on the market. Give you our preview of some of the big games this weekend, Thursday and Friday, in the Sweet 16. But on the other side, joining us to talk all things college basketball, the great Seth Greenberg from ESPN, here on Westwood One Sports.
Timeout! Half-court heave! Oh! Tanner in and out! And Nebraska is on to the Sweet 16!
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Oh, man. TNT courtesy of the call. Brandon Gaudet was... I thought he was fantastic, that team with him and Chris Webber. I loved them. I thought he did a great job calling the games for the NCAA tournament this weekend, and that game was so good. Nebraska-Vandy, I don't want it to be lost to history, as we end up forgetting about it as the years go on. That's one of the great second-round games in the almost 40 years I've been watching the NCAA tournament. Just tremendous drama from start to finish. The partisan crowd, pro-Nebraska crowd in Oklahoma City, like Vandy kind of embracing its role as the villain, the heel in the game. Nebraska making the shot at the end, and Tyler Tanner doing his best Gordon Hayward impersonation in the 2010 championship game against Duke, nearly making a shot to win the game, literally rimming out, looked like it was going to go down. A magnificent college basketball game, won by Nebraska. Nebraska-Iowa now coming up in the Sweet 16, and what was a tremendous opening weekend of the NCAA tournament. Joining us now to break it down, one of our absolute favorites, one of the most respected college basketball analysts in the country, nay, in the world. Our good friend, Seth Greenberg of ESPN, on Twitter at Seth on Hoops. My friend, welcome back to the show. Happy Monday. How are you?
Any better, I couldn't stand it. Great games and even better games ahead.
Oh, and Seth, I want to start with the last thing you said. Even greater games ahead, because I started the show today talking about the NCAA tournament. It's different now than it was even just a couple of years ago with NIL and less upsets on Thursday and Friday. I kind of think that's going to be what it's going to be moving forward, even if we will get a high point once a year maybe, or maybe a couple upsets every single year. But I made the case to start the show. I like this version of the tournament better because it ensures that we are going to get the best teams playing at the end, and the level of basketball is going to be spectacular. I can't wait for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week. Where does Seth Greenberg stand on the NCAA tournament? The differences between now and a couple years ago? Do you like it more? Do you like it less? Lay it out for us, how you feel about the tournament.
You can't screw up the NCAA tournament, number one. Number two is we've had the outliers. We've had VCU. We've had Loyola. But in the end, when we get to the Sweet 16, this is what it most times is. How many times do we get an outlier? We really don't. Now, the separation is greater than it's ever been because it's the cost of doing business in college basketball and college athletics. And if you have a really good player and you're a mid-major team, odds are, if he's got 2 years left, all right, he's going to put himself out in the market and he's going to get paid market value. That's the reality of the business of college athletics today. So, look, our games have been compelling. We've had a little bit, the high point, their style of play, the way they play. But, look, they spent $5 million on their roster. All right, look at the makeup of their roster. 2 6-year guys, 2 5th-year guys, and a senior and a junior. So, I mean, it is what it is. As long as the quality of the games and they're competitive and teams are playing hard and there's storylines, and we've had a ton of storylines. Like people ask me, is Texas a Cinderella? If you got a Nike deal with KD worth millions and millions of dollars, you're not a Cinderella. I hate to tell you. That's not a Cinderella. No, I mean, Texas was one of the last teams in, but they're playing their best basketball. Lost 5 of the last 6, and Sean Miller got him to guard now. So the tournament's great. The matchups have been great. In terms of the upsets, they come and go. We got 16 best teams in this moment in time playing against each other.
I agree completely, right? And it is funny, right? The 11 seed that's in the Sweet 16 is not like LaSalle or like VCU in 2011. Here's Sean Miller in Texas. Like the 9 seed is Iowa, a good Big Ten team, right? With a great coach and a great point guard. The 6 seed is Rick Barnes in Tennessee. We're now in the Sweet 16 for the 4th consecutive year. These games are going to be awesome coming up on Thursday and Friday. Now, you mentioned, Seth, and you're 100% right. So many juicy storylines coming out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. I want to start with one of the last things that we saw last night, which was Florida losing to Iowa, obviously, at the very end of the game. Is this more of a situation, Seth, where you want to credit Ben McCollum in Iowa? You want to blame Todd Golden in Florida? Like, how do you kind of parse through the ending of that game with Iowa upsetting the reigning defending national champions?
Well, to get to that point in the game, you got to impose your identity on the game if you're Iowa, and that's what they did. They controlled the tempo and rhythm of the game for a good portion of the game. They control the tempo of the game two ways. They control it with their defense, and they control it with their offense. People don't understand. You can control the tempo of the game with your defense, being more pack line oriented, keeping the ball in front, taking away splits, forcing people to shoot contested shots, limiting people to one shot, taking them out of transition because you're taking a good shot, you're not turning it over. So, I mean, I give Iowa credit for that. Now, Florida, they struggled against Vandy in the SEC tournament. I watched them absolutely blow out Arkansas, in the game day game we had there. But, and here's the but, at the end of the game, they absolutely did a poor job of setting up their defense the last possession. You don't need a guy on the ball because there's 8 seconds left. You want to basically keep the game in front, bracket starts, make it hard for him to catch the ball. When he catches it, keep a guy between the ball and the basket. He caught the ball on a run. All right, Boogie Flam was behind the play. It was already a 3-on-2. And then you can't help from the ball side corner. They helped from the ball side corner. The only thing that can beat you is a 3. They gave up a 3. So it was a little bit of everything.
How do they not get a shot off at the end of the game also? And it's funny, like it was the inverse of what happened last year when they won the title against Houston. Houston doesn't get a shot off. Florida's got 5 seconds to get a shot off. They don't even get a shot off at the end of the game, Coach. I couldn't even believe what I was watching.
Well, because they didn't have Walter Clayton Jr. I mean, that's why they get Walter Clayton Jr. made shot after shot after shot. All right? They had Xavier Lee, who's a nice player. They had Boogie Flan, who's a nice player. And they brought the ball up the outside third of the floor, which basically means everyone could load to the basketball. So when Lee got the ball, he needed to get and cross the grain of the defense by getting the ball in the middle third of the floor. He kept it on the outside. Defense did a good job of keeping him there, which enabled him to load up to the ball.
Coach, I know you're not in his head, so this is going to be a difficult question I'm asking. I'm just curious, though, because you're around the sport. You're as plugged in as it gets. Just listening to and looking at his face after Dylan Darley makes the game-winning shot for St. John's, what Bill Self said post-game, kind of like, I'm going to talk to my family and kind of evaluate things, and like he hasn't been in the best of health, and it kind of sounded to me, and I'm not saying I have the answer, that maybe he is going to walk away. Maybe he is going to leave Kansas and take some time off. Who knows if he would coach again after that? Do you have a sense as to what's going to happen with Bill Self in Kansas? Like, would you be surprised if Bill Self stepped down? And I know you're not in his head, but just curious what your sense is, because that would obviously be a gigantic story if that happens.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate on someone else's life and career. I do know that Bill's had major medical issues for the last few years. I think this year was probably pretty taxing, even though he says he enjoyed it, just because of everything with Darren Peterson. The business of college basketball has changed. He's an incredible coach. They've struggled in the tournament the last 3 years. I'm sure he doesn't want to go out that way. But, he's got 2 national championships. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's got all the money, more money than he can spend and his kids can spend. So, he's got to do what's in his best health and what makes him happy. And for anyone to speculate on that, him saying this is under consideration says it all. He's not saying that just to say it. He's saying that because it's really under consideration.
I thought it was such a vulnerable moment for such a great coach, and it just it struck me in that moment whoa. There's a lot of real life stuff going on here. I thought it was pretty admirable, Bill Self saying what he said after a really difficult loss to St. John's yesterday. You bet on this Monday, Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos, joined by the great Seth Greenberg from ESPN, on Twitter at Seth on Hoops. So, Coach, we talked about Florida going down to Iowa, the only 1 seed that got bounced in the opening 2 rounds. The other 3 obviously advancing to the Sweet 16. Of those 3, Arizona, who will take on Darius Acuff, John Calipari in Arkansas. These games are going to be sick. Michigan against Alabama, and Duke against Rick Pitino and St. John's. Which one seed do you put on the biggest upset alert coming up on Thursday and Friday?
I think Duke, just because of style of play. I mean, you talk about St. John's, they turn you over. They're physical. They're going to make it a rock fight. On the other hand, Duke is only playing with 1 point guard, Caden Boozer. He's playing really, really well. I mean, he's playing terrific. But his backup point guard is his brother. He's 6'9" power forward. And the way Duke gets after you, St. John's gets after you defensively, that could be a real concern. Now, if they let Duke be freed up and play with space and rhythm, I don't think it happens. But the way St. John's plays, they make the game as ugly as possible. They're as physical as possible. They disrupt your rhythm. They make it hard for you to get in bounds. They've got real length. And I think that could be a really tough matchup for Duke, especially if they get into Duke's bench, and especially if they get anyone in foul trouble.
How would you kind of like grade Duke's performance thus far? And I said in the first hour of the show, the reason why I'm a little confident in Duke, Coach, I don't think they've played that well. I could have lost to Siena first half against TCU, not great. They led by 4 at intermission and then explode in the second half. I'm kind of thinking like, okay, they've gotten a couple rough ones out of the way already. Gungba's back and healthy. I kind of really like Duke moving forward as a result. Like, how would you grade Duke thus far, their performance in the NCAA tournament?
I think John's done a great job of managing everything he's dealing with. Patrick not playing, Patrick playing, obviously not having Caleb, basically integrating Caden as the starter, and who's been great. But they do have limitations, and their depth is limitations, and the versatility in the backcourt's limitations.
The game's going to be awesome. Duke and St. John's. Like, that's got to get your juices flowing. That's the first game coming up on Friday night. Coach, the last game on Thursday night, and I do want to get your opinions on a couple games early in the week, and you can stop short of making a full-on prediction if you'd like, but just like you have such a great basketball mind, just kind of how you see some of these games playing out conceptually. Illinois-Houston, I feel like, is as good a game as like we'll get in the round of 16 in any year in the NCAA tournament. Houston is drawing interest right now in the betting market. Just to offer some context, Houston more than a full possession favorite, 3.5-point favorite against the Illini. I think this is a true coin flip game. I can't wait to watch it on Thursday night. When you think about it, kind of what stands out to you in the matchup with Illinois and Houston?
Well, can Houston disrupt Illinois, get him out of rhythm? How they're going to defend Stojakovic because of the size of him at the small forward position? Keaton Wagler, his size against the undersized backcourt, can they be real physical on the perimeter? Uzan's going to have to be good. Sharp's going to have to be good. Fleming is who he is. And then up front, Tuchel's got to stay out of foul trouble. It's really, really important. And then how tough is Illinois? In these matchups they've had, kind of the must-wins, next level, Final Four type teams, they have not been great. And a little has to do with physicality and toughness. Can they be tough enough, physical enough to deal with the relentless physicality of Houston? I think that's going to be interesting. And can Houston score it enough? I mean, plain and simple, after Fleming's, can those perimeter guys make enough shots? Because they don't get anything easy. They don't have Juwan Roberts. They don't have Francis, who just gets them those easy baskets. They score very few points in the paint. So I think that's something to watch.
Last one, Coach, as far as the games are concerned, the other like coin flippy game in the betting market is UConn and Michigan State, the 2-3 matchup in the East region. Winner will play the winner of Duke and St. John's for a berth in the Final Four. Betting market says UConn a really small favorite in the game. I can't wait to see it. Danny Hurley, Tom Izzo, 2 great programs. What does your gut tell you right now about UConn and Michigan State?
Yeah, UConn's got a solo ball, and Braylon Mullen's got to make shots. Braylon made 3 threes in a row the other day. They got to make some shots. The game planning for Michigan State is as good as any. They have a smaller margin error depending on who steps up and makes shots. Cone Carr made shots the other day. Kurtang has made shots. They've had other guys make shots. They've got to shoot it consistently. These 2 guys played in an exhibition game I attended in the fall. So they have a little bit of a feel for each other. Michigan State's much better than they were then. Look, Val's Caravan plays the way he's playing. This game will be a lower scoring game. This game will be more of probably, even though Michigan State wants a run, but if they don't run, they play into the clock. I do like Michigan State in this game because of the experience of those 2 front court guys.
I love it.
Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler have been really, really good, and they put a lot of pressure on you. And Jeremy Fears, as long as they take care of the basketball, I think the Michigan State wins. Recently, again, Silas Emery's back, but they turned it over a little bit too much. He turned over against Michigan State during transition.
Caravan, 27 points, a career high in the win against UCLA. And think about some of the great point guards in Michigan State history. Magic Johnson, Mateen Cleaves. Jeremy Fears now owns the record for most assists in one NCAA tournament game for what Michigan State did in the win against Louisville over the weekend. Final question, Coach. We now have a full weekend of data, 4 days worth of games. As of right now, who's your pick to win the NCAA tournament and why?
It's Arizona, and I don't worry about NCAA tournament data. I'm worried about the team's body of work. Who are they? How do they win? They got 8 starters. Walker comes off the bench and gets 10 rebounds. DeLarso could make shots. Bradley's a good closer. Murray's, after struggling a little bit in the Big 12 tournament, is playing his best basketball. And Krivas doesn't have to score a lot of points, but he's a terrific passer, terrific rebounder, and protects the rim. So I've got Arizona, even though they don't make a lot of threes.
That is heartening for me to hear. I also like Arizona to win the title. Coach, you are extremely generous with your time. Really appreciate it on this Monday morning following an awesome weekend of the NCAA tournament. Stay well, and we hope to catch you down the line here on You Better You Bet.
You got it, Nick. Appreciate you having me.
The coach, Seth Greenberg, joining us here on the show. I thought his answer on Bill Self was very fair. And I kind of know, like I've been doing this long enough where, like, he's not going to say Bill's retiring. And that's why I kind of phrase the question the way I do, right? Like, I know you're not in his head. Like, who knows what's going to happen here? So, of course, he's not going to speculate. I know when I ask that question, he's not going to speculate. But then, he gives us his opinion a little bit, right? And Seth is someone who coached at the highest level, 2-time ACC Coach of the Year. And he brings up Self's health conditions, right? And the fact that Bill Self says after the game that things are under consideration is not something that you just say willy-nilly. There's meaning behind it. And to be fair to me, it's one thing for me to say that. It's another thing for Seth Greenberg to say it, who is, a contemporary of Bill Self's. I do think that's going to be a story for us to follow moving forward. All right, take a quick break. And on the other side, we turn our attention. Well, we're going to talk more hoops. We'll talk the pros. You can't stop talking about Luka. You can't stop talking about Wemby. You can't stop talking about Jalen Brunson and my New York Knicks. But there's a story you're not talking about in the NBA. And you should be. I'll tell you what it is next on You Better You Bet.
Marcus Smart looking. Kennard to win the game. Yes! 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 Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard wins it for the Lakers.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Times are good right now in Los Angeles with the Lake Show. Luke Kennard, game winner. Not LeBron James, not Austin Reeves, not Luka Doncic. Luke Kennard with the game winner. Lakers beat the Magic 105-104. Now 9 straight wins for the purple and gold. We'll talk about the NBA in just a second, but we want everybody to log into your BetMGM app to receive your Any Sport Parlay Boost token. To use the Parlay Boost token, add a parlay wager made up of any sport wagers to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win your wager that was made with the token, you'll receive extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today so you can make it legendary. And as always, please, 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 gamble responsibly. Sportsnet LA, courtesy of The Call, coming back from break. The Lakers are a gigantic story right now in the world of sports. Whether you love them, whether you hate them, you have to acknowledge it. They're playing awesome basketball, have a pretty firm grip, not a vice grip, but a firm grip on the 3 seed in the Western Conference. I think Luka Doncic is playing the best. I said this last week, playing the best basketball of his career. LeBron James is now the greatest third option in the history of the NBA. I said this last week. It's like, could you imagine? Like, you know who the biggest story is on the Golden State Warriors the year they win 73 games? Draymond Green. You know, like the 92 Bulls. You know, Michael and Scotty are nice. I'm here to talk about Horace Grant. Like, it's generally not how this goes. And the Lakers are pretty unique in that respect, right? Where you have the greatest role player in the history of role players right now in the great LeBron James. The Lakers are worthy of the praise they've been getting. They should be making news. People should be talking about them. Then there's the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama. Winners of 5 straight, 9 of 10, 53 and 18. We played on Friday, Wemby's game winner against Phoenix. Spurs clinch a playoff berth. Wemby takes it all so seriously, and you have to love that from your young stud superstar player. And I have already walked back comments that I made on this show a few months ago that I didn't think the Spurs could win the title. I'm not saying they will, but I have to acknowledge, if it happens, it would not be the most surprising thing ever. Such is the greatness of Victor Wembanyama and his supporting cast with Castle and company. The Spurs are a huge story. There's the Boston Celtics, and the wins and losses since Tatum came back, since Jason Tatum returned from the Achilles, have been good, but Tatum's offense has been a little scattershot, a little herky-jerky. The Celtics' offense, and it's really explainable, right? Because now you're putting Tatum into the mix after what Jaylen Brown and company had done while Tatum was out. But, the offense is a little all over the place right now. The Pistons have widened their gap on Boston since Cade Cunningham and the collapsed lung. So Boston 4.5 games out of the 1 seed right now. Lose yesterday to Minnesota. There are some questions right now about the Celtics. They're a story. And then there's my Knicks, very quietly. Winners of 6 straight games and a half game back of Boston for the 2 seed in the East and 2.5 games up on the Cavs for the 3 seed Cleveland, currently in the 4. And tonight, Monday night in the NBA, we have a couple really great games. How about the Lakers taking their 9-game win streak to Detroit to face the Cade Cunningham-less Pistons? Lakers a 2.5-point road favorite in that game in a rematch of the 1988 and 1989 NBA Finals. We have tonight Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs visiting Bam Adebayo and the Miami Heat in a rematch of the 2013 and 2014 NBA Finals. Those are 2 games tonight in the association that would be worthy of being the game of the night here on You Better You Bet, Westwood One Sports, Nick Kostos and you on this Monday morning. But neither of them is actually the game of the night. And that is because the game of the night, take it away, Kenny.
Game of the night.
I love throwing to game of the night by calling it the game of the night. The game of the night in sports tonight. And it's the story overall right now in the NBA that no one's talking about. because everyone's into the Lakers, and everyone's into the Spurs, and everyone's into Boston, and everyone's into my Knicks. And can Denver get it fixed? Can Denver get it right? Can Houston get it right? What about the Minnesota Timberwolves? What about the Cleveland Cavaliers? Here's my question for everybody. What about the actual best team in the league? The Oklahoma City Thunder. Tonight, the Thunder visit the 76ers. The betting market says the Thunder are going to blow that ass out. OKC, a mid-double-digit favorite tonight in Philly. No Joel Embiid, no Paul George for the Sixers. OKC, a 15.5-point favorite. So why is this the game of the night? Because tonight, Jalen Williams is back for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I'm not talking Jalen, Jaylin, who's also really good, as part of like the Thunder Sam Presti's deal with Satan, where every player on the roster is awesome. No, not Jalen, Lin, Jalen as in J-Dub, Jalen, as in the Robin to SGA's Batman, as in the guy who had a 40-burger last year in the NBA Finals. That J-Dub. You know, one of the best 15 or 20 players in the NBA, who's like barely played this year for OKC. We haven't seen him in 6 weeks. That's okay. All OKC has done, because all everyone wants to talk about is the Lakers. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I like talking about them too. They're worthy of it. Do you realize that the Oklahoma City Thunder have won 11 straight games with various studs out of the lineup? Alex Caruso doesn't play every game. Hardenstein doesn't play every game. AJ Mitchell doesn't play every game. Chet Holmgren doesn't play every game. We haven't seen J-Dub barely at all this season. No big deal. No big deal. Just the best record in the NBA. Again, for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Despite all the injuries. 56-15. 3 games up right now for the 1 seed on the San Antonio Spurs. And I'll keep saying this. When we get to the playoffs, and this is a really critical stretch coming up because we're less than a month away from the playoffs starting in the NBA. Assuming Jalen Williams reintegrated into the offense, right? Gets his legs underneath him. And it's not, the first round's probably not going to matter for OKC. Who's OKC going to play in the 1-8 matchup in the first round? Phoenix? Like, I'll tell you what, the Clippers would be a little interesting if that's the matchup, but I don't know if Kawhi Leonard can single-handedly carry the Clippers to an upset win over the Thunder. Like the Blazers, like the Zombie Warriors, no way. So J-Dub, Jalen Williams, has got a little bit of a chance here. Get his legs underneath him, right? If that happens, who's beating them? We all can't stop talking about the Lakers, right? Are the Los Angeles Lakers going to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder with a healthy Jalen Williams in a 7-game series? Most likely not. Now, maybe you think the Spurs could do it. And, like, San Antonio's had a bunch of success against them. I would argue, and, like, I can be wrong about this, I don't think the Lakers would ever beat the Thunder. The Spurs could. I'd be pretty surprised. It's one thing to do it in December and January. It's another thing to do it in May. If it's Thunder Spurs in the Western Conference Final. The Celtics, the Cavs, the Pistons, the Knicks. I love the Knicks. They're not beating the Thunder in a 7-game series. So sure, like Luka, LeBron, Lakers, great story. The Celtics and their offense with Jason Tatum, really fun to talk about. Wemby and the Spurs, A+. My Knicks, can they keep it rolling? All fun stories. Don't miss the big points. That's Jalen Williams returning tonight for the reigning defending NBA champion, Oklahoma City Thunder. Final hour, power hour coming up next. We will start the hour talking college hoops with my good friend, John Jastremski of The Ringer, here on Westwood One Sports.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Bring it up, Kenny. Final hour. Power hour. You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos, our amazing crew, John Jastremski, and you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. We still have a lot to do here in the final hour of the show. I have a couple NFL free agents still out there, matches with teams that we'll get to in about 20 minutes. We are 1 month away, not figuratively, literally, from round one of the NFL draft. Today, March 23rd, April 23rd, round one of the 2026 NFL draft. And I will also give you early thoughts on a couple of the banger matchups we've got Thursday and Friday in the NCAA tournament. Bill Zimmerman's got today's trivia question of the day locked and loaded. Can't wait for that. He said earlier in the show, no one's going to get the question right today. I can't wait to find out what it is from Bill. All our bets will close the show. But joining us right now, I love him. He's the best. And for people that are just listening to the show right now, you are missing out because our friend John Jastremski joining us now from The Ringer and SNY on social media at John_Jastremski. He is and normally these people make me sick. And I mean that. I actually do kind of mean it seriously. And I have a lot of friends in this field that went to Syracuse. But like JJ's one of these guys that bleeds orange and everything's about Syracuse. He's got his Syracuse hoodie on. His team's got a new coach, Jerry McNamara. How you feeling on this Monday morning, my friend? Always great to have you on the show.
Nick, the pleasure is all mine. It was a phenomenal first weekend of the tournament for my bank account. It did not end on a high note. I'd like a mulligan back on Texas Tech. What are you going to do? Can't win them all. But yes, I am stoked that my alma mater has a new head coach, and it comes full circle because you'd appreciate this. Senior year of high school, I'm cutting school to go and see Jerry McNamara beat UConn at the old Madison Square Garden, scalping tickets. Now I get to see Jerry McNamara coach my alma mater, Syracuse, and I wanted outside the family. I wanted new blood. When he basically goes and almost takes down Duke outright, that was it for me. That's when the heartstrings start pulling. Jerry, the Scranton boy, it's time to come home. I'm fired up he's home. But I'll say this about being a Syracuse guy, Nick. You know what's one of the best compliments I've ever gotten from people? A couple of people have told me this. They go, you're a Cuse guy, but you don't fit that, like, motif.
No, yes. I'd like to interrupt to say this. JJ's likable. And then look, I mean that slightly tongue in cheek, but JJ is absolutely the most likable. And look, like,
I appreciate that.
Parkins is on the show every week. I love Danny. You're the best though, dude.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. I think that's the New Yorker in me. Although people say New Yorkers are not friendly, which I really push back on because I actually think New Yorkers are honest, they're candid, and they just tell it like it is, and we're just loud, obnoxious, and a little in your face. You always get the hospitality, though, Nikki. You know it, and I know it. Come on now.
The last thing on Syracuse here, and I'm curious, like, I know, like, it's an exciting name. The thing with Syracuse is whether people like or don't like Syracuse, I think it's fair to say, right? And I would encourage everyone in the audience to think this as well. College basketball's better when Syracuse is good. Like, it's better when Syracuse is good and better when Syracuse is relevant. Like, do you think that is Syracuse getting back to relevancy with this hire here? Because even if I root against Syracuse, and I have to admit I kind of do, like, I do admit that college basketball is better when Syracuse is healthy.
They should get back to relevance from this standpoint. I think Jerry McNamara, from a present standpoint, is going to get him more money. I do. And I think one of the main reasons he was brought to the program is he can be this sort of face that's so identifiable that's going to help in this NIL era. Yes, he can lead. Go watch his speech before and after the Duke game. Yes, there's a sort of gravitas about him, but that's the name of the game, Nick. Now, Adrian Autry couldn't coach. He was just incompetent for 3 years. That's the reality. Syracuse actually had talent to go and be in the NCAA tournament this year. He couldn't coach at all. Jerry McNamara can coach. If you get the players, if you spend the money, St. John's is the perfect lesson in all of this. Nick, their program was dead. It was the abyss. They'll never, ever get back to a point of national relevance. Rick Pitino comes in, they start spending money. They're in the Sweet 16 this weekend. That's all you need to know.
What's so funny about that and like the St. John's point, I remember I needed to make a couple extra bucks. I don't even remember what it was for. I ended up working at my high school play. Like I wasn't in the play, but I worked in like the booth, like opening the curtains or doing something to make a couple extra bucks. And it was the night that St. John's won to go to the Sweet 16 in 1999. Like the last time St. John's had been. That's how long ago it was. I was in high school the last time St. John's was in the Sweet 16. Let's talk some tournament. I opened the show. I'm fascinated to hear your opinion on this. I like this new tournament better than the old tournament, meaning I am willing to sacrifice Thursday and Friday, the opening days, not being as good, if it means we get the best of the best at the end. I don't need FAU. I don't need St. Peter's. I don't need Loyola Chicago. Give me the big boys at the end. Where does John Jastremski stand on this point?
I'm right there with you. Now, I would throw a little wrinkle into it. I like to have the ones, the twos, the threes pushed a little bit. That's why I thought that Duke Siena game on Thursday was the perfect result. It was drama. It was high stakes. There were multiple moments in the game where you thought Duke could lose outright as a number one seed. But at the end of the day...
And you got Jerry McNamara as a result as your coach, which certainly helped as well.
Well, no question. He earned his stripes. He looked like he could coach. But we want Duke in the second weekend. We want Duke Pitino. We want to hear about Christian Laettner now for the next 4 days. UConn and Michigan State. Who doesn't want to see Tom Izzo and Dan Hurley on opposite sidelines? I think in a perfect world, Nick, you get one Cinderella team. One. Where it can be the narrative. People can hop on board. Maybe they win a game. Maybe if they're lucky, they win two. But in the years in which it'd be full-fledged chaos, as wild as that would be on Thursday and Friday, to your point, guess what? You'd hit the second weekend of the tournament. You go, whatever. I mean, not us, because we're betting on the games. We love the games. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to watch. But from a sizzle standpoint, from an excitement standpoint, yeah, baby. Give me the Power Five. Give me the big boys. And I think the second weekend of the tournament was going to be top-notch across the board. I really do.
I think the quality of the games is going to be spectacular moving forward also. And these matchups are mouth-watering on Thursday and Friday. You mentioned Duke St. John's. We'll do that one in a little bit. I'll tell you, as a New Yorker, I should say it's St. John's against Duke. Illinois-Houston is actually the game that I'm most excited for. It's the last game on Thursday night where, it's fair to say, like the winner of this game is going to be favored to go to the Final Four out of that region with Iowa and Nebraska on the other side of that region in the South region. Houston's a 3.5-point favorite right now, JJ, and I'll say it now, and I said it last week. I think Illinois is going to win the game straight up. Do you have an opinion for us early in the week on Illinois-Houston on Thursday night?
Wow, usually we are very simpatico when I come on the show. I feel like when it comes to a betting sense, not all the time, but in many cases, we are aligned. I'm the opposite here, Nick. And to me, it's for two reasons. Number one, Houston's defense against Illinois' offense. I'm always going to take the defensive team. And I just think there's a narrative building towards Kelvin Sampson, who was so close to winning a national championship a year ago, finding his team back where they were a year ago. And this may be talking from somebody that has a 12-1 ticket on Houston. So I understand there may be a little bias here. But if I'm comparing the two coaches, Underwood gets teams to the tournament. There have been a lot of duds for him in these particular spots. Illinois' defense scares me. I think Houston will be able to score. Also, there's another element at play here. The game, Nick, is in Houston, Texas. Yep. Advantage Houston. I get it. Illinois is a fun team to watch. They're super talented. And if they're knocking down shots, they can go and beat anybody. But I'm going to go and lay the 3.5 with Houston. I get why you like Illinois, though. And I think you're going to see a whole lot of short bettors on the side of the Illini going to that Thursday night game.
Oh, baby. I can't wait for it on Thursday night. Let's go to Friday. I want to hit you with 2 other games and then maybe some big picture topics in college hoops. UConn, Michigan State. Basically, sportsbooks are like, shrug emoji. UConn, the smallest of small favorites, 136.5 the total. I'm going to be on Sparty in this game, John Jastremski. Are we back simpatico here, or are you going to be back in Danny Hurley and UConn?
We are back simpatico, Nick.
Yeah.
It was only a question of when, not if. I'm not going to overreact to what I saw from UConn in Philadelphia against a UCLA team that had to travel across the country, that's spending multiple days on the East Coast, and then had these scoring lulls in that game on Sunday night where they're going like 3.5, 4 minutes without a basket. Look, betting against Dan Hurley in a tournament is not a comforting thought. I've been there before. It's not pleasant. There are many instances over the last few years. It has not ended well. But I've really liked what I've seen from this Michigan State team. They can defend at a high level. I think they have a lot of size that's going to give UConn problems. And when we were going through, at least in my mind, my imaginary brain, like before I saw the lines that popped up, I'm doing TV in my pod last night, I was thinking, Nikki, this was going to be like a 3-point spread. So when I saw a point and a half, I go, you know what? I was going to be on Michigan State regardless. I think the book's trying to tell me something. We will not get the old Big East matchup. Tom Izzo getting back to the Elite Eight.
You know, I think what's sad as a New Yorker and someone who grew up like a stone's throw away from St. John's from the college, I don't think we're going to get either Big East team in the Elite Eight. I kind of think Duke is going to roll against St. John's. It gives me no pleasure to say that. Like, I love as a New Yorker and a Queens kid for St. John's to be able to continue this run. I love Pitino. It feels like to me, JJ, Duke has survived the opening weekend and now getting healthier and their best basketball to me looks like it's in front of them. I think Duke wins by double digits against St. John's. You want to make the case for the Johnnies here on Friday?
So I have not decided what I'm doing with this game yet. Like, there are a bunch of games I know I'm betting. This is one of those games I feel like I'm on the fence from this standpoint. I understand your point about Duke. Getting healthier, survive the scare, and if St. John's is going to play offense the way they played offense against Kansas, they have absolutely no chance. This game will be a 15, 20-point Duke win. The pushback I have is twofold. One, Pitino. He is such just an assassin in these big games. You give him 4 or 5 days to scheme up what he's going to do to Duke, and the pressure that St. John's defensively can throw the way to Duke guards. That, to me, is the element that would scare me a little bit. The idea that St. John's, with all of their physicality, making them go 94 feet again and again and again and again, is that something Duke is able to handle? Gut feel right now, Nick, if I had to make a bet on Monday, I'm with you. I would take Duke. But I could be convinced on St. John's, and I feel like this game will be one of those where I'm like going down to the wire Thursday, Friday morning, kind of mulling it over, kind of like weighing what may happen here. I'd love to see St. John's win. I'd love to keep the ride going for Pitino. But yes, there's a reason why Duke is one of the 4 best teams in the country.
Who's going to win the title?
Well, is my future talking? My future would tell you
whatever you want.
Well, I have a nice wager on the Michigan Wolverines at 20-1.
You got to be feeling good about that, right? After the annihilation of St. Louis on Saturday.
You know, it's interesting. They didn't play great at the end of the regular season. They didn't play great in their conference tournament. And I looked at the draw when the bracket came out. I said, this should be a cakewalk for Michigan to get to the Final Four. I love the matchups for them. I love the region for them. They smoked St. Louis on Saturday. I have Michigan and Houston in the title, but I want to say something here because I have faded this team quite a bit over the last few years. I picked Arkansas to go to the Final Four. Don't you have a feeling this just might be Arizona's year? That team is loaded. They're loaded.
That was my team to win the title. Yeah.
They're loaded. So, like,
did you see the point spread for that game, by the way, Arizona, Arkansas?
As someone that has Arkansas like 9-1 to win the region, now it makes sense why I got 9-1 to win the region. You know what I mean?
Arizona's 8.5. Arkansas is awesome. Arizona's 8.5 against them.
Well, the problem Arkansas is going to run into, and I like that team a lot. Acuff is going to be a future NBA star. They don't play any defense. And that is a theme that I think you're going to see in a couple of these Sweet 16 games. I mentioned it with Illinois. It's problematic for Arkansas. I know Alabama had a big game and they go to Sweet 16, but they're in the same boat. These teams that don't defend, it usually comes back to bite you in the butt. Does it not?
I think the way Arkansas wins the game, I'm sure you're gonna agree with this, is if they win like a really high scoring game. Like that. Yes. That's how they beat Arizona here. So let me give you a betting opinion here. If you are going to bet Arkansas, you meaning the royal you, JJ, all our audience, I don't think you bet them plus the points. I think you just bet them to win the game. I think if it's close, they could absolutely win. I'd rather agree. I think Arizona by 20 or Arkansas wins outright. I think it's an extreme outcomes game as far as
I think that's spot on, because you'd have an Arizona team with all the expectations, with all of the hype. That's a white knuckler in the final 3 minutes. And I know they played some tight games in the Big 12 tournament. I know they played tight games in a regular season. It's different. It's different for that program with the sort of prestige that they have, yet the results in March have not followed in quite a while. I mean, it's been a long time coming for Arizona to even get back to a Final Four, for goodness sakes. That, to me, is so spot on. Arizona, alt margins. Arkansas, if you like them, take the money line.
Final question for my friend John Jastremski of The Ringer in SNY. I know the answer to this question will be yes. I will ask it anyway, and then there will be another question that follows. Can we do a little baseball with you to close here, my friend?
Oh, I mean, is the sky blue? Not today, but yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I knew the answer would be yes. All right. So Yankees-Giants opens on, which I think I kind of like it being the next. I don't dislike it. Yankees-Giants, and then we have opening day in earnest coming up later this week.
Netflix is a little weird. We got to figure that out. Hopefully our streams are good, Hopefully.
Like Monday Night Raw is generally not bad. I've got some decent hopes here for how this is going to go coming up on Netflix on Wednesday night. This can be a New York team to answer the question if you want it to be. What is your one favorite storyline, JJ? Heading into the 2026 Major League Baseball season?
Ooh, that is a great question. The Dodgers going for the three-peat. I think it has to be, right? Like, it's something we have not seen since our beloved late 90s Yankees.
Yeah.
And, I think there's a narrative that's being pushed out there, Nick, about the Dodgers. Oh, they're unbeatable. Are we sure about that? They were inches away from losing the World Series to the Toronto Blue Jays, who
on multiple occasions.
Game 6, epic Game 3, best Game 7, best baseball game I've ever watched in my life was Game 7 of the World Series last year. And I have opinion on this because I've been watching baseball since 1995. It's the best baseball game I've ever watched. I think the Dodgers are going to sweat here. Like, anybody who bets their win total over, I think is insane. Like, last year was a stone cold under. They have no desire to go balls to the wall for the regular season. But I want to see, okay, who's the team? Is it the Yankees? Is it the Mets? Is it the Detroit Tigers? The Mariners?
Who do you think it is? Who do you think it is?
Great question.
Don't say Yankees.
Seattle Mariners.
Oh, okay. Tell us why.
Because I love their pitching, and I think it's a lineup full of stars. Asking Toronto to go and do it again, I think is unreasonable. I'm not there with the Mets. I think they'll be a playoff team, but they're counting on a lot of guys who have injury backgrounds to just basically replace the guys that they brought in, which is not, in theory, it sounds great. Bo Bichette and Jorge Polanco, I like a lot as players if they're playing 140 plus games. I know with the guy at first base who's going to be down in Baltimore, he's playing 140 games. Like, it's guaranteed because he does it every single year. And if those guys don't play, you have problems. Phillies, I think their window is closed. I love the Braves. The problem is the Braves pitching has just been absolutely destroyed, and we're in March. That's never a good sign. Seattle Mariners, I would say, Nick, are the team that could be best suited to dethrone the three-peat.
JJ, like me, diehard New York Yankees fan. Yankees opening day in 2 days, March 25th. What will be the first date on the calendar that John Jastremski is furious at Yankees manager Aaron Boone and or general manager Brian Cashman?
I feel like because it's day in and day out, and I didn't have that many objections to the Cashman offseason this year, I'm not going back and relitigating. I'm talking about this past offseason.
Oh, I love to relitigate.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we could with Corey Seager. We could with multiple things. But the Cashman frustration.
Lance Lynn, 2018 against the Red Sox. The disaster against Tampa.
How about showing the video of the Boston Red Sox after Game 4 of the ALCS? I mean,
please.
I'm gonna say May 17th. I'm gonna tell you why, Nick. They get off to good starts under Boone. They do. Where the swoon comes in is like late May, early June. That is when the bubbly starts boiling over. Yankees usually play well to start the year. Usually.
I thought for sure that the month JJ was going to reference was going to start with M and the second letter was going to be A.
March.
I did not think I thought it was going to be March.
I'm a father now, Nick. The patience within me is showing off.
Yeah, give it a little time. JJ's the best. New York. The Ringer New York Sports Podcast is unbelievable. SNY, Ringer Gambling, at John_Jastremski, Twitter and Instagram. I love you, buddy. Thank you very much. Congrats on Jerry McNamara. We'll talk to you soon.
Anytime. Catch those tickets, except for Illinois. That's all.
JJ's the best. And we didn't even have to talk about, the Miami Dolphins trading Jalen Waddle this time. Maybe we could do that another time with our friend Dolphins fan, the great John Jastremski. All right. Love JJ. Our bets for tonight coming up to end the show, but on the other side, some NFL free agency, 1 month away from the NFL draft, and my early takes on some of the best games in the round of 16 in the NCAA tournament here on a Monday, presented by BetMGM. the country can firmly say that they are pro-John Sadak shows. We love John Sadak on this show. That's John Sadak with the call on Westwood One along with Jason McCourty, divisional round playoff game, Patriots and Texans from back in January. And I remember like the next day I was saying to Tyler and company, like off air, man, John Sadak's really good. And Tyler was like, yeah, he's awesome. He did a great job this weekend on Westwood One calling the tournament games. This is a big pro John Sadak show. I think maybe the most underrated play-by-play guy in the country, John Sadak, with that call of the Stephon Diggs touchdown divisional weekend. So we've said a couple times over the course of the show today, right, that we are 1 month away, literally, today, March 23rd, round 1, 2026 NFL draft, April 23rd. We're 1 month away from the NFL draft. And obviously, it's going to be a huge topic of conversation on this show over the next 4 weeks. In fact, joining us on Wednesday this week, as in 2 days from now, the great Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Media. So we very much look forward to that conversation here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports with Nick Kostos on Wednesday when Dan Jeremiah joins us. So we have barely scratched the surface on our NFL draft content here on the show. We've already given you a lot of good stuff, good guests. I feel like the conversation has been really good around the draft, the top 10, the quarterbacks, the receivers, etc. But aside from the NFL draft, we are right now in what is a pretty interesting period on the NFL calendar. And I'll be really fair here. It's really only interesting to psychos like me who live, eat, breathe, and sleep the NFL 365 days a year. But what I think is, something cool about me, I think it's one of the things that makes me good at this job, is I am going to be able, I think, to excite you with what's happening in the NFL right now, even if it's not obviously exciting. We are through the first wave of free agency. We are also through the second wave of free agency. And this is like going to the beach in the morning and the waves are awesome. And I'm not even talking if you want to surf, just like you like to go in the ocean, like, have some fun in the waves, right? And the waves are awesome in the morning. And then as the day goes on, maybe not as good. And then once you get to the golden hour, it's a little impotent. It's kind of like what we've got right now with free agency. But with that being said, we still have a couple really interesting names out there on the market. And there are a couple, and we could do this for every team, right? But there are a couple contending teams, like teams that I think could fancy themselves as legitimate Super Bowl contenders, and fans of these teams can tell themselves a story, right? Like, this team could maybe win the Super Bowl this year, could be in the mix, could be there at the end of the year in January. And some of these teams have got some issues on their roster right now. It's only March 23rd. There's still free agency. There are still trades. And there's obviously still the draft. A lot of time to figure things out. Let's try and figure some of those things out right now together. I'm going to hit you with 4 names right now. 4 of the sexiest names remaining out there on the market. And I say sexy in a very platonic way, talking about these free agents. 4 names that you will absolutely recognize. 3 are receivers, and 1 is an edge rusher. Let's start with Juwan Jennings of the San Francisco 49ers, who my sense is going to leave and sign elsewhere. The team that I think makes the most sense for Juwan Jennings is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, we'll talk about Stephon Diggs in a moment. We played the Diggs highlight coming back from break. Diggs obviously released by the Patriots. He's got legal issues he's got to figure out. The sense is that he's going to be on an NFL team this year, obviously. Diggs has been talked about a lot with the Ravens. I don't love that fit. And the reason why I don't love that fit is because it feels to me like the Ravens have a younger, better version of Stephon Diggs right now in Zay Flowers. I think the Ravens need a different type of body at the receiver position. Now, I do think they need a burner, someone with like big time speed, and Jennings is not that. But Jennings is more of your big body receiver. Like DeAndre Hopkins was not good enough in this role. I think Juwan Jennings can be. Now, the Ravens have a huge hole at center with Tyler Linderbaum having signed with the Las Vegas Raiders. There's one decent free agent center left, Lloyd Cushenberry. So if they don't sign him, they're going to draft someone early. That's an obvious hole. But I also think Lamar Jackson needs a little help in the pass-catching group. Jawan Jennings is the guy that makes the most sense to me. We mentioned Deebo Samuel earlier in the show when we were talking about the Seahawks, right? Seattle re-signs JSN to a huge contract. I think you can make the case that right now Seattle might be the third best team in its own division, given the Rams and the Niners have absolutely gotten better. And I told you why. I think Deebo Samuel and the Niners should reunite. And Deebo and Mike Evans and Kittle with Ricky Pearsall, with Christian McCaffrey, I like that for Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. So let's move to Stephon Diggs. This is a little narrative-y, and I admit that. But if you really think about it, I think there are two places that make a lot of sense for Stephon Diggs. Has to be at the right price. And they're both places he's played before. Number one, Buffalo. Number two, Minnesota. Your counter to this may be, and you could be right, and I acknowledge that, Stephon Diggs wore out his welcome in both places, to the point that the Vikings trade him to the Bills, and then the Bills trade him to the Houston Texans. And Diggs gets hurt in Houston, right? And that ends his time there, and he signs with the Patriots. If Diggs can keep it together, and I acknowledge that's an if, could you imagine him working underneath with DJ Moore and Shakir and Kincaid and Josh Allen in this Bills offense with Joe Brady calling the shots? He makes that receiving core so much better. How about in Minnesota? We just saw Jalen Naylor sign with the Raiders. The Vikings drafted Ty Felton last year, did nothing in his rookie year. It's like here's the corpse of Adam Thielen for a while. No way. Once you get past Jefferson and Addison, who scares you? Hawkinson's a good tight end. Who scares you in Minnesota's receiving core? Could you imagine Diggs working underneath with Jefferson and Addison? Catching passes from Kyler Murray? A little interesting, right? And the last free agent match is Joey Bosa. So Joey Bosa, obviously with the Bills last year, he is a boom-bust pass rusher at this stage in his career, where health is not guaranteed for Joey Bosa, and his production is obviously not what it was when he was a young player with the then San Diego Chargers. And he's obviously not as good as his brother Nick. Still a really good player. I think there are two teams that make the most sense for Joey Bosa. One would be his old team, the Chargers, now in Los Angeles, obviously, who did re-sign Khalil Mack, but desperately need some juice on the edge, some more juice on the edge. I think that makes sense for the Chargers. And the other, if you would like to be scared as an NFL fan, especially if you're a fan of this team, you could choose to, you really want to be scared. You could, pop in a horror movie, read a Stephen King novel, log in on Twitter and go to the For You page. Or you can go to Our Lads. They really need to sponsor the show, along with BetMGM. And look at the depth chart at edge for the Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchinson is obviously a stud. No one will argue otherwise. One of the best edge rushers in the league. The other edge rushers currently on the roster for the Detroit Lions, DJ Wanham, Tyler Lacey, Eddie's brother, first-round bust Peyton Turner, and Ahmed Hassanein, who I'm almost surely mispronouncing his name. This is a team that's favored right now to win the NFC North with legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. That's your edge rushing group. What happens if something happens to Hutchinson? They're screwed. Detroit's got to go out and get Joey Bosa. And also draft someone as well. And maybe sign somebody. You have Super Bowl aspirations. You can't go into the season with that as your edge rushing group. So I understand, like, we're in the third wave of free agency. I get it. It's not as sexy as it was a couple weeks ago, but still have some big names and still have some Super Bowl contending teams with holes to fill that they can in free agency. I was going to, we'll save it for the final segment. I'll give you some thoughts on some of the games on Thursday. We'll get Kenny and Tyler's thoughts as well. Early thoughts on the games on Thursday and Friday. So let's end this segment here by welcoming in our executive producer. Honestly, I was kind of trashing, tongue-in-cheek, Syracuse alums in the media earlier in the show, just because I'm a Fordham guy, and while Fordham is producing tons of great sports talent, listen, Syracuse is the gold standard. It is. I have to acknowledge that. Bill is a Syracuse alum. I would say that Bill falls more on the nicer end of Syracuse alums. Bill, am I correct in my criticism of Syracuse alums in the media?
I don't have a problem with Syracuse criticism. We're like a virus. We're everywhere. I get it. People don't want to see us anymore. I understand it. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. I think we faded a little bit. Maybe we're past peak. We're on the other side of the mountaintop, but there's still a lot. We're still coming out in floods.
Well, we're only like on the other side of the mountain because Syracuse is stunk. Syracuse basketball is stunk. Like if Jerry McNamara gets them back to prominence, oh man, you guys are going to be like cockroaches, sneaking out of the garbage cans, ready to make some more noise again. And God bless you. If Fordham were ever good, I would absolutely do the same thing. So tongue in cheek here, I'm friends with a lot of Syracuse alums in the media. Bill, what is today's trivia question of the day, which you said earlier to us off air? You don't think anyone's going to get this question right today. What is the question?
All right, here you go, Nick. You're talking today about how much you love the chalk in the Sweet 16, but we still got a double-digit seed, albeit it's Texas, but Texas, an 11 seed, has made the Sweet 16. Now, only twice since they expanded to 64 teams in 1985, only twice have we seen 0 double-digit seeds reach the Sweet 16. One of them was 2007, where 7th-seeded UNLV was the lowest seed that made it. But there was another year where it was even chalkier, where no one worse than a 6 seed made the Sweet 16. What year was it?
Okay. So just from knowing Bill a little bit, just for our listeners and viewers, Bill said 2007 was the year you just said, Bill, with UNLV?
2007, UNLV made it, correct. 7
So
seed.
So what Bill does to try and make this easier for people, and I think it's really good that because these questions are hard, is I think you get the hard one out of the way first. So I will, and you don't have to say yes or no to this, my interpretation of you throwing out 2007 means that this has been soon, like it's been more recently than 2007. So I think we can cut this from 2008 to 2026, 2025 really, we're in 26. So which year was it? We'll find out if I'm right on the other side. Myself, Tyler, and Kenny will attempt to answer the question. You can attempt to answer the question as well. Answer it on YouTube, youtube.com/@thekostos. Then we'll give you all our bets for tonight. Early thoughts on the round of 16 on a Monday on Westwood One Sports.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew. Presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
We want you to log into the BetMGM app to receive your Any Sport Parlay Boost token. To use the Parlay Boost token, add a parlay wager made up of any sports wagers to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win your wager that was made with the token, you'll receive extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today. We'll answer the trivia question in a moment, but a bunch of comments today in the YouTube chat, youtube.com/@thekostos. Shout out to our friend Nolan, who says he's going to keep it a buck. It's 100. He's telling the truth. I'm not that old. Nolan says he doesn't care at all about big matchups between big programs. He usually tunes out by the Final Four because all the teams left are boring. Nolan, you are welcome to your incorrect opinion. Appreciate you checking out the show. Our buddy Mark says taking the madness out of March Madness is going to kill it. No one wants to see Duke versus Arizona every single year going forward. Why tune in then? What's the point if all the lower seeds are gone? I don't know. Better basketball. Our buddy Pablo is glad. He says no Cinderellas. They should just have their own tournament and have the Big 5 or 4 be its own league. Yeah, that actually exists already, Pablo. It's called college football. Our buddy Gage, hottest seat right now is Hubert Davis at North Carolina. To lose 2 years in a row the way they did is inexcusable, consistently blowing massive leads in big spots. I think Hubert Davis is on his way out at Chapel Hill. Bill Zimmerman is here, our executive producer. Bill's got some tweets to read, and then we will answer the trivia question. Bill, what do you got?
Yeah, Nick, a lot of people wanted to chime in on this topic. How about one bet a day? He says, I want high-quality basketball games. We've got that, and I think we are in store for an all-time weekend of games. Arkansas, Arizona, Illinois, Houston. How could you not want those matchups? Smalls 96. More upsets early, and it's not close. If I was looking for the highest quality of basketball, I'd watch professionals play, not college kids. The tournament is supposed to be fun because it's unpredictable, not because high-seeded blue bloods all end up in the end. And we got one more here. We'll read from Joe Cornelio, who says, round 1 upsets are cool, but round 2 upsets ruin the Sweet 16. So there you go. A little sample from the real ones.
Shout out to our buddy Joe. I love that tweet from Joe Cornelio. All right. Bill, the trivia question is, I'm not going to attempt to paraphrase it here. What was the trivia question today? It was a mouthful.
All right, we'll do it nice and quick here. 2 times have there been no double-digit seeds in the Sweet 16. One of them was 2007 with 7-seeded UNLV. What is the other one where 6 seed was the lowest seed to make the Sweet 16?
So let's see if I'm correct in what I said earlier to end last segment, that I think Bill gave us 2007 because the other example is more recent. I am going to guess, and believe me, this is a guess. I will guess 2009, because I remember Nova played Pittsburgh in the Elite Eight that year in a Big East matchup, and those were all like top seeds in the Final Four, not all ones. I'll say 2009, but it is totally a guess. Tyler, what is your guess?
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm going to guess just 2017. That's my guess.
All right, so just pulling it out of his derriere. Kenny?
Yes.
I'm going to base my guess, and my guess is the same as yours, Nick. I'm going to base it off of, because this is right when I started watching college basketball, and I know you had the 2-peat or the back-to-back Florida, and then it was Tyler Hansborough in North Carolina. It was really chalky. That was like right before Butler and VCU, so I'll say 2009 as well as the year that was the chalkiest Sweet 16, besides 07.
I can't wait to find out how wrong we are. Bill, what is the answer to the question?
You guys are 0 for 3, because I'll tell you who's really good at trivia is our friend Mark Summers in the YouTube chat. It was 1995, where only a couple
Well, why
made
would
the
you
Sweet
give
16.
2007 out then? Why wouldn't you give 95?
Because I don't want to make it predictable, Nick. I got to make you work for these.
You did, and to be fair, like you did, and that's my bad here. So 95. Let me see if I can get the Final Four. I can't. The whole Final Four. UCLA beats Arkansas in the title game. What else is the Final Four in 95?
Correct. Let me. I've got it up here. It was Oklahoma State beat UMass in the Elite Eight. UCLA beat Connecticut, and North Carolina beat Kentucky.
So then it's UCLA over Carolina, Arkansas over Oklahoma State in the Final Four. That's how it went.
It was UCLA over Oklahoma State and Arkansas over North Carolina.
And then UCLA beat Arkansas, ending Arkansas's bid for a 2-peat for back-to-back championships. Great question by
And
Bill
ironically, Ed O'Bannon on that UCLA team is the reason why we're so chalky now.
Right.
Because
exactly.
the NIL suit.
I will never forget my dad. Just 2 quick stories about that tournament. We were in the car driving. We don't have time for this. I'm going to do it anyway. We'll be really quick with the rest of the show. We have to go to 7 o'clock mass, and we would leave during the 4 o'clock football games, the end of the games, to go to mass. And this was a Sunday night game, UCLA, Missouri in the second round. I listened to the Tyus Edney coast-to-coast layup to beat Mizzou in the second round on Westwood One on the radio in 1995. And I will never forget my dad was convinced that Toby Bailey was going to be Michael Jordan after UCLA won the championship in 1995. Anyway, moving on here. Tyler and Kenny are with us. Tyler first. Give us, Tyler, your favorite bet as it stands right now for either Thursday or Friday in the round of 16.
Absolutely love Illinois. I think they're going to win outright. I think they're going to outscore Houston. Houston played great against Texas A&M, but I think that was more reflection on A&M. We've been saying it all tournament. Love Illinois. So that is my favorite bet of the tournament, and I'm sticking to that one. I love them.
Kenny, Sweet 16.
I love Illinois as well, but to switch it up, I'm going to take St. John's, not only with the points, but money line. I think they beat Duke.
I strongly disagree with that. Tyler likes St. John's also. So I love Illinois. I think I might lay Arizona. Iowa, Nebraska feels tough. Texas has been getting bet today. I don't know how Purdue's going to stop Vokatitis. Like Kaufman-Wren's an undersized big. Vokatitis is 7-1. I could see him having a huge game for Texas. I think that game might be a little closer than expected. Texas and Purdue. And UConn's been getting bet over the last little bit here. UConn out to 2.5. I think Michigan State beats UConn on the court as opposed to, in the locker room. Let's get to bets for tonight. Kenny, please drop the dope ass beat. All right, one bet from yours truly for tonight. Okay. So the Los Angeles Lakers are 2.5-point road favorites at the Pistons. No Cade Cunningham. Detroit is currently getting bet. The Pistons have not lost since Cade Cunningham was ruled out with a collapsed lung. I don't understand this line. Maybe I'm the idiot. I'm going to lay the Lakers here. I'm laying the Lakers. And I did say earlier in the show that the biggest game, the game of the night tonight in sports, is Thunder Sixers in Philly. And Jalen Williams is back tonight for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the Thunder are getting bet like people know the final score. We are out to 16.5 Thunder at Sixers. And the Sixers are without basically all their good players. You know what to do when the star returns in his first game back. We're going to wait until the last moment, and we are going to bet the best number on the Sixers plus the points. These are small bets. I'm saving up for Thursday and Friday in the NCAA tournament. I'm off tomorrow. I'm working Saturday. Chris Mack has you covered. I am back on Wednesday here on Westwood One Sports. Until then, I'm Nick Kostos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, the absolute very best of luck. Our good friends, Black and Abdallah, coming up next.